Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to IO Radio with your hosts, Adam and Sal. So today's episode is the result of basically something that I stumbled across on the internet that I thought was very amusing. And I thought we'd share it with you and do a little mini reaction to it. Apparently a crypto enthusiast called into Sam Seder's Majority Report show, and they tangled with him. And I thought it was an interesting episode or a little segment, and I thought we'd share it here and then make our own comments on it. One of the things that I really do want to do is I just don't want to necessarily make it appear like we're showing just one side of the story. I've been trying for quite a long time to get some crypto people to come on the show to discuss and debate with us, but it's a lot easier said than done. And admittedly, I'm probably part of the problem because I've been a moderator of a number of critical crypto communities in social media, and I do definitely have a bit of an attitude, and I can come off as being condescending, and I don't sincerely mean to be, but when you deal with people that tell you have fun staying poor and you're stupid and you don't understand over and over and over, when they can't actually back up their claims with logic, reason, and evidence, you begin to get frustrated and your attitude and your tone changes and you become more just dismissive, especially when you start hearing the same 14 talking points and excuses over and over and over again. But I still want to try to remain open-minded, and I continue to be open-minded. If Bitcoin or any other crypto or crypto-related project actually has potential, bring the evidence, and I absolutely intend to honestly absorb that. But I'm not going to shelve my critical thinking skills either, and I'm not going to ignore the vast history that I have working in the technology field and also what I know about crypto and blockchain. So I guess it'd be nice to get some people on here and to have a dialogue and try to come to a little bit more of an understanding. I'm not convinced that we'll ever see eye to eye because I think in some ways we're on different planets, But again, if you know of a crypto enthusiast that wants to debate and discuss things, let me know. We'll put them on the show. And we've done this several times to some degree so far, but not really what I think has been a really good debate. We've given some people that were either on the fence, some airtime, and some crypto people some airtime. But we do want to kind of not make it too one-sided, even though basically we are absolutely promoting a particular narrative that we think is based on evidence. We will still let people present their cases if they think they can do it, as long as it's, worth of listening to and it's not just nothing but insults. So anyway, with that in mind, let's listen to how somebody else, a much more experienced, seasoned professional, more of an expert in giving people not financial advice, you know what I mean, respond to a crypto caller, and we'll give our comments because it's an interesting take that's different from probably what I would do and maybe what Sal would also do. So take a listen. And also, we're now on Spotify. Be sure to look for IO Radio on Spotify. Sign up for our YouTube channel, YouTube/American Scream Video, and hope to see you online. Okay, so this showed up today. This is funny. This is a crypto fan calls into the Majority Report with Sam Seder. I don't know is that how you pronounce his name? I don't know.
I have no idea. Let's watch.
The 215 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
What up, Chief? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Watch their expressions.
This is David from Bucks County, PA.
David from Bucks County, PA. What's on your mind?
Now he knows what's on his mind because obviously the call screener already told him. So you could just see the expression on his face. Watch.
I'm glad I got you today because you've been talking about some things that I kind of wanted to fold into my comment here. I'm calling about crypto, but I promise I'm not a tech bro. I'm not some cheesy libertarian. I'm a leftist. Take a deep breath because I'm a little nervous, but
well, I gotta be honest. After you said that, I'm a little nervous too about what's coming next.
I don't blame you. My wife says the same thing every day when I get home from work. Just to start, do you have any investments in like the German stock market or anything like that? FTSE or anything like that?
No, I don't. No. I mean,
okay.
It's almost, I don't so much that it's almost funny.
So what you're saying is 100% of your investments, 401ks, all that stuff is U.S. based, right?
Yes.
Okay. So my problem is when you guys get into discussions about crypto and, leftist in general, is it kind of seems like you say, like when crypto came out maybe 8 or 10 years ago and people, looked at the scene, and as it started to mature, it was a bunch of like Elon Musk acolytes and things like that. So it seems to me that a lot of leftists, especially online, just kind of said, oh, look at all these tech libertarians in crypto. This is a cheesy libertarian thing. I'm going to hate crypto, and I'm just going to kind of reverse engineer my positions on it.
That's a mistaken impression.
That is not correct.
Yeah.
We were skeptical from day one, I think.
David Columbia wrote a book actually tracing the ideology and all the implicit assumptions that, I don't know, I would recommend that book, actually.
I mean, for me, it was not as much of an ideological.
So I didn't know these guys were anti-crypto.
Yeah, the politics of Bitcoin, right? I think that's or is it the right something that David Columbia book? I've read it. What is it called?
So there was some other people,
Bitcoin. Yeah, the politics of Bitcoin. Software as right-wing extremism. It's not a long book. I highly recommend people read it.
Okay, let's continue.
Issue at that time because it was not clear. I mean, maybe it wasn't clear to me that this was some type of libertarian project as much as it was like, this is just like tulips.
So that part was evident, but if you like
really
the actual...
What this guy is saying, he's calling in and he's saying, hey, you haven't looked at, you just don't understand. You just saw this as a right-wing talking point, as some libertarian tech bro thing, and you immediately started hating on it.
Because he's a leftist, and that's what leftists do. They just shit on anything right-wing. That's projection there, if you ask me. I don't think this guy is actually a leftist anyway. I don't know of any leftists that call themselves leftist.
I won't make a claim about what any group calls themselves. I mean, who knows? I think you have to take the caller at face value. Maybe they like to think of themselves as progressive, but clearly, in the case of cryptocurrency, they are mistaken in terms of their viewpoint.
Satoshi documents and stuff like that. It's gold bug. It's neo gold.
It's gold bug stuff.
Right. Well, that was just my impression about some online leftists. Not particularly you, but I think sometimes when you get into discussions, especially on Thursday when you have Bender on, it kind of gets into like, let's shit on crypto and make fun of it.
Bender's an expert. Bender's an expert.
I saw, Matt Bender, I think, is very good on crypto. And I got to say, I am very proud of all the shitting we've done on crypto, because the fact is that all the people who decided that crypto was something to buy into after, say, they renamed the Staples Center Crypto.com Arena, or Matt Damon or Spike Lee or Larry David were doing ads for it, all those people are underwater because of this so-called investment, which was just a speculative bubble.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah?
I've heard you say the same things probably a half dozen times. Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Would they still be underwater if they had been making small direct deposits every paycheck like they would have been doing with the 401k since that time?
I don't know. I don't think they'd be as underwater as if they invested in NFTs.
Right, they would not be, but NFT is not what I'm talking about here. So my original point about your investments is, what that implicitly says is that you are 100% invested in the project, that when all the ecological calamities that we've been talking about in the first hour of the show, everything that happens in the world, unmitigated disaster that would make World War II look like a peanut.
He's getting to it.
You seem to think that the global financial systems are just going to float on top of that and nothing's going to happen to them. So my question to you guys.
Well, wait a second. You're asking me to you're making an assessment of my 401k?
No, I'm saying all of your investments are in U.S. dollars.
Me?
So implicit in that is the belief that over the next 30 years, when we see...
Oh, well, dude, no, that's not implicit in that, because I'm almost 57 years old.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to liquidate all that stuff.
Into what?
Weapons. Dried food.
I mean, I understand your flippancy because...
Okay, all right, so wait, you're suggesting in 30 years, what's going to happen? We're not going to have a U.S. currency?
Well, I think so. I'm getting ready to turn 41.
Wait, no. Just let's be explicit because we've gone on for a while here. What's going to happen in 30 years that are going to make my U.S. denominated investments, if I had any, worthless?
Okay, well. First of all, that's another point I wanted to get into because a lot of times.
No. Just stay with the original point. Stay with the original point. What you said? Then 30 years, all this stuff. If I assume that like there's going to be climate change and we're going to have like social upheaval.
Well, the worst case scenario would be complete financial global collapse.
Right. Okay. And so, but you're suggesting to me that in the event of a complete global financial collapse, that your electronic money is going to be able to buy stuff at the local what?
At the local
it gets
boat
better.
Exactly.
to sail to fucking Puerto Rico. I don't know.
Well, I think like you gotta have a notion because you gotta take this scenario. Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
You gotta take this scenario and go a little further because you're telling me that I should put my money into this. I don't personally think it's a currency, but into this like sort of asset. And I'm being charitable and calling it an asset, to be honest with you.
Very charitable.
To put it into this asset, because if there's a global meltdown of the financial...
Doesn't have to be global.
Okay, just an American one, right?
Okay.
For some reason, the currency in America is going to be worthless. It's going to be worth what am I to believe? Like the Chinese, I want to have like the Chinese.
It doesn't have to be anybody.
Okay, and so everybody.
What if the bank doesn't give you your money?
Okay, the bank doesn't give me my money, and so you're suggesting to me that I'm going to be able to go down to the bodega here, or I'm going to be able to go to the farm stand if I'm living in, upstate or something like that. And I'm going to be able to say, look, I know that you haven't been able to trade in dollars, but I have this digital currency. Could you pull out your phone? My what?
No,
are you aware there's a financial, my phone doesn't work anymore, buddy? Wait, what's going to happen?
No, we're talking about worst case scenarios. We're not talking about buying a bag of Doritos at the bodega. What if you go down to Long Island and there's someone with a flight to Portugal and they won't take American dollars? How are you going to pay for it if you have to get out of the country with your daughter?
Why do I need to get out of the country with my daughter? Why is Portugal going to be better when this climate crisis hits?
What if half the eastern seaboard is on fire or underwater?
I think we'll have bigger problems.
Half the eastern seaboard is. I'm just going to be clear on this. Half the eastern seaboard is on fire. And so wait, I'm going inland now to find some rogue airstrip, right? And you're going to fly me to where?
I think maybe you just have a lack of an imagination. You're getting.
Well, we
deal in reality, my man.
I have an imagination, but I'm just trying to fit. Like, okay, I'm imagining a world where half the eastern seaboard is on fire, and you're telling me that I'm going to take a plane to Portugal, and I'm asking you, wait, who's flying this plane? Who's doing international flights now? Like, where's the U.S. government in this? Or we don't have an FAA at that point, or what? What? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it's
yeah, exactly.
I love that he's taken, instead of like dismissing the absurdity of his scenario, he just takes it one step in its natural evolution, as this guy claims, and it just becomes even more absurd.
Well, yeah, you have to follow the logical conclusion of what they're stating. So,
or you could just tear apart their premise as being completely absurd in the first place.
Well, this gentleman has said, okay, what if this scenario happens and there's no more government, there's an ecological collapse, civilization is crumbling,
right?
But somehow, magically, phones and wireless and the internet all still work.
Yep.
In this magic scenario, isn't it like it's just they have to go to such absurd lengths to say, see, then crypto would be useful.
Right. Of course, they point out, what makes you think your phone is going to still work if the economy is collapsed. And of course he's like, of course it's going to work. That's that naked assertion.
Or electricity. Let's go more basic.
Well, you'll see what he takes it in a different direction than I would, which is kind of really interesting.
It's a rogue plane. And just to be clear, how far inland? Let's just say like Pennsylvania is above water. So I'm going into a cornfield, or maybe I'm going out to Nebraska. I'm going into a cornfield in Nebraska, and I'm going up to the guy who I arranged through some type of I don't know, like escape railroad to fly me to Portugal. There's no air traffic controllers here. Dude, I mean...
So you asked me for a worst case scenario, and then you're just going to make fun of it?
No. Okay.
Well, yes.
Well, yeah. What's the scenario you're planning for? Okay, what's the scenario you're talking about? You just said that just the American currency.
I'm talking about a scenario where you can't access U.S. dollars.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
What else happens? This doesn't happen in a vacuum. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. For me not to be able to access U.S. dollars, do you understand what it would look like as I look around?
Yeah, I do, and that's why I have Bitcoin.
Okay, but do you realize that if I can't access U.S. dollars, there's no electricity?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Oh well, I mean, you could have a generator.
Ukraine is currently being invaded by the number 3 power in the world, and they have the internet.
I wouldn't say they ubiquitously have the internet. I wouldn't say
because of
they also have purchasing power with their own currency.
Giant sponsor.
There's people going to restaurants
they've been invaded
and
by Russia, and they're still using their currency.
Yeah, and I'm sure that didn't Elon Musk have to send them some special satellite stuff so they could access the internet? I don't think it's under the assumption that everyday people there have got, Starlinks.
Reliable electricity. They're having a big problem with electricity generation because the Russians have been targeting power generation facilities.
And of course, the Russians control all of the inbound and the outbound stuff. They can,
What do you mean the Russians control inbound and outbound
stuff?
Well,
I mean, like backbone providers and connections. If they want to, they can sabotage.
Maybe, like Ukraine has connections into the rest of Europe. They're going to have infrastructure that provides data into Europe.
Right, but they can also knock the power plants out, which they have.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. But Russia isn't at this point. Russia isn't controlling fuck all for Ukrainian internet access.
Right. Yeah,
they would have blocked it a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? You said what's going to happen if I don't have electricity?
No.
What happens if I don't have internet? You're going to have the internet. You're going to have electricity.
No, you said to me that I don't have access to U.S. dollars, which means that our currency, what does that mean? I don't have access to all the banks have shut down.
I'll tell you.
All the banks have shut down. Is that what you're saying?
No, wait till let's get his next premise gets even crazier.
Do you want me to tell you? No, I'm not saying all the banks have shut down. I'm saying you can't get your money.
Me personally.
Let's imagine you personally. All right, it's 2032. We live in a fascist government, and the climate wars are in place. And President DeSantis says leftist radio hosts and leftist podcast hosts our assets are frozen as of today.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
Do you think that they don't have the ability to shut down my phone and my computers?
Yeah, ask the Dread Pirate.
What are you going to buy?
What?
Did your perspective of crypto change at all when the caravan in Canada had their assets frozen?
No.
Why not?
Because it wasn't
because they had their I mean, that's like saying if the majority report's PayPal account was frozen, that my crypto ideas would change. They could shut down if they wanted to come in and keep me. If President DeSantis wants to target me, he's not going to go like, oh, but we'll leave him have access to his cell phones and his.
He can't stop that.
What?
Yes, they
can. He can't stop you from accessing your crypto.
Bro. Excuse
yes, they
me.
Can, bro.
I can keep my daughter from using her phone right now.
You can't keep her from accessing crypto.
Did the government stop Dread Pirate Roberts from accessing crypto? How's he doing?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
He's the guy who started the Silk Road, and he got busted because it turns out this stuff actually, when the government wants to get at people who are using it for the purposes that you're suggesting it actually is useful for, it doesn't work that way.
Look, I got to be honest,
what you're saying,
what I'm saying is you bought a
is,
line for something that and it doesn't actually serve the purpose. You bought a sales line.
Okay.
Let's just listen to this element. Just listen. Just really quickly.
Right.
The fact that you're engaging in these doomsday scenarios, I'm just asking you to reflect a little bit on it, because in my opinion, these kinds of scenarios are laid out to people to convince them to purchase a speculative asset that has been bought in bulk for the most part by people who already had a ton of capital, a ton of money, and they need the price to go up. And so they're trying to get you to think about the zombie apocalypse when in reality you're just getting screwed over, my guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you could say the same thing about dollars.
No.
You could say the same thing about dollars.
Exactly.
These people.
Another sales line.
Because this is fiat currency and everyone is participating in it, and this is our financial system. So that's completely different than a finite number of bitcoins that are already in existence and are being held by a majority of people, of capitalists who are trying to take your money. And then you're saying we're the suckers. I'm trying to tell you, you gotta stop doubling down on this. Game over. We already determined this months ago.
Listen. Let me just.
I didn't call you a sucker.
Listen,
I'm
not calling you a sucker.
Before I hop off here real quick.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. So you asked for a worst case scenario where there's no government to.
No, and then I asked for not a worst case scenario. You listen. These are all No, you said to me in 30 years that my investments, because I'm not in like the German stock exchange or whatever it is, that are going to be worthless with all of this, that are riding on the apocalyptic scenarios. And I asked you to walk me through this, and then you said the next worst scenario is that the U.S. dollar isn't available for anybody, and then you said the next scenario is that Governor DeSantis specifically doesn't like what I'm doing, and so he shuts down my access to my bank account. And I'm telling you, I had a neighbor upstate who came to me one day and he's like, I got my uncle's gun. I'm like, okay. And he goes, and it has no serial number on it. And it's I can't remember what he said it was, but it was a handgun. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with that? And he goes, I buried it in the woods. And I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, well, if they come for me, then I run to the woods and I get it. And I'm like, dude, first off, who's coming for you? And he's like, the government. And I'm like, but how do you think the government's going to show up? That you're going to run like a quarter mile to the edge of the woods, find your buried gun and fight off the government that wants to take you? What is the scenario you're talking about? I mean, I get the inclination of like, I need a hedge against like what's coming down the road, but I just don't think electronic money is the hedge. Because I got news for you. I don't have enough.
What's your hedge?
I'm not going to be able to buy enough Bitcoin that is going to allow me to bribe a guy relative to other people who are going to bribe that guy. There's no FAA to get to Portugal. What am I going to do when I get to Portugal with my, whatever it is? $100,000 worth of Bitcoin
with an asset that has no intrinsic value except for what's ascribed to it, because it's a speculative asset. Like he would do better to have gold.
Does it have intrinsic?
Yeah.
Does it have intrinsic value to Argentinians?
I mean, we'll see. Caller, why?
Oh man, does it keep going? What
it keeps going. I find it interesting that he points out something interesting. So even if you buy into this scenario where Bitcoin is the only thing of value in the Armageddon, what makes you think that somebody else doesn't have more Bitcoin than you? And it still becomes there's 10 people and there's only room for 5 people. Who's got the most Bitcoin?
Yeah.
It seems to me in that case, whoever's got the bigger gun says, motherfucker, exactly. I'm getting on the plane.
Better to just own an airfield than a plane then.
Or just maybe run out to the woods, dig that gun up.
Yeah, his neighbor has a better plan. Jesus.
Why don't you bury the money in a suitcase? Because you're worried about like withdrawing it, right? Let's just say the scenario that money's still useful, but the banks have cut you out from accessing it. What is
I've
the
done
reason?
that.
Is the reason
I've done that.
Well, this is the question: is the reason you don't just bury that in a suitcase for later or under your mattress or whatever? Is the reason you're doing it in crypto because you want some of that speculative gain?
No, I think it's probably safer than putting it in a mattress that can catch on fire or something like that.
Well, put it in a metal box
Yeah.
in the mattress.
Because the government can't the government can't actually get into the.
See, they're trying to trap him to admit the real reason why he's into Bitcoin for the speculative gain, right?
Yeah.
I guess they thought he was going to say the inflation hedge thing. So do they trap him? Let's see.
These things and like trace you and stuff like that. You know that, right?
Well, gains are nice, of course.
Well,
But, you know.
All right, well, dude, good luck. And here's the good news. I am hoping, okay? I am hoping that in the event that I show up in that cornfield in Nebraska and you and I are both there, take us with us, because I'm not going to have enough Bitcoin or cash really to outbid anybody.
Yes.
And I hope you don't hold this call against me.
Well, there might be like a 10% surcharge, but I think we'll be able to work something out.
All right.
I get it. Everybody's got a price. I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. All
Enjoy the rest of your day.
right, bye-bye.
You too.
Here's the thing that also doesn't quite track with me. If you see this as a survival mechanism, you must be aware that in that environment, it's going to be competitive. And so if you genuinely believe that this is going to give you that competitive edge, why is there very often a compulsion to tell other people about it and convince them that they should do this too? Because honestly, if you do see this as that kind of dire emergency, at least if you're going to have, I don't want to say integrity, but like if you're going to use best practices for being a prepper, you don't go around and tell everybody like, hey, this is what my bomb shelter looks like. And the way I've hidden it is I've got it hidden in the trunk of this tree.
Right.
And then you climb down. You don't tell anybody.
If I was Binder, if it comes out that Binder is secretly holding a large amount of cryptocurrency, you should all get really scared.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what you would do. You would be Binder's
This is
sitting on a
worthless.
mountain of gold.
Right.
If you have someone to sell it, for
If you go to
10
if you
cents
go
on
to
the
if you go
dollar.
to Binder's apartment, literally everything is made out of gold. He's just painted
Yeah.
it to make it look like it's actual
right,
wood or
right,
plastic or
right.
something like that. Oh boy, that was not the call I expected. But I did say like now I'm afraid at the beginning of that call. Do you remember?
Oh, I think it was very clear where that was going.
Yeah.
This is a philosophical thing, right? And as a socialist and not a libertarian, I don't think money should be privately controlled. I think it should be publicly controlled.
Yeah,
And that is
there we
just a
go.
fundamental
Without
issue.
a doubt.
Well, yeah, but money is publicly controlled. It is. Yeah, I mean, the Federal Reserve is appointed by Congress, and it's audited, and there's oversight, and the members of Congress can change monetary policy. So it is. I don't know how much more public it could be.
There's some oversight, but there's still a large portion of the monetary system which is in private hands and is in control by private power.
Well, there's
That
definitely
is certainly true.
powerful private special interests. That's true. But that's what the government ideally is supposed to regulate those things. Now, if the government's failure to regulate them and they're becoming too big to fail and too powerful, that's not a failure of government in general. It's a failure of that whatever administration there is not taking their responsibilities, and they're letting these entities get too powerful.
Like there's multiple appointees to the Federal Reserve. I shouldn't really speak to exactly how the Fed works because I'm not an expert. My understanding, though, is that there are major financial institutions that have the power to appoint a person to the Fed. The chair and I think the vice chair have to be approved by the president, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's a nomination and then it's approved by the Senate. I can't recall how that works.
Well, there is obviously some degree of autonomy because you don't want that office to be completely politicized. But
But if we're talking about public accountability, why are they in the hands? Why is so much power in the hands of private institutions?
Again, I take offense to that characterization. I think that's a mischaracterization. There is accountability, and there is public oversight, and there is public control of the money system in America. It's all formally audited. You can go online right now in the Federal Reserve. You can look up the audited financial statements of every one of the banks in the Federal Reserve, see where all the money is and all that. There may be a board that oversees that maybe has a layer or two of abstraction between them and, say, direct democracy. And there's a real advantage to that in that it doesn't heavily politicize the feds. You don't have Republicans and Democrats on the feds. You just have people on the Fed. I mean, at least that was the premise behind the Supreme Court, too, where they were appointed and then they didn't have to be beholden politically for the remainder of their tenure there. They could just, they were immune to it. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but I would not say that it's non-public. It's public. If you think it needs to be better public, then let's talk about the ways in which it could be made more. But I just don't like the idea of saying our monetary system is private, because that's not true.
I would say, I think you're right to call that out. I think I would want to do more research before I actually had a strong opinion about this. But I would be willing to say that
Could it be improved? Absolutely.
Hold on. Yeah. And I know you agree with that, but the point is it in the public interest? Is it run in the public interest, or is it run in the interest of private special interests? And I would say I would say the characterization that the money system is run for the benefit of private special interests is a fair characterization.
I'd say that's a gross oversimplification, because you're cherry picking
inequality and how wealth is distributed within the economy.
You could pick 10 government programs that discriminate and pander to wealth inequality, and I could pick 10 government programs that do exactly the opposite.
But that's not the point. The point is the distribution of wealth in the society objectively has gotten worse over the last 50 years and is almost as bad.
I absolutely agree with you, but that has no bearing on whether or not a public system would reduce that or not. I mean, look at
all I'm saying is that it's clear that objectively and empirically, the way the economy and the financial system and the monetary system is run is not. It should be for the public interest. It should be to do as much good for as many people as possible.
Right.
That doesn't seem to occur. Translation, I don't know. Perfect. I'm not making a claim as to why that is, but I'm saying that is in fact how it is.
Just remember, one of my pet peeves is people that complain about things without actionable solutions. I don't like that.
But hold on. It's fair to, I think it is also fair to recognize that there's a problem and say, hey, I don't know exactly how to solve this.
Yeah. Well, there's a problem. There's a problem with everything. You pick a topic, any topic, and I will give you a problem that perhaps we both can agree on.
All right, we're gonna solve our problems. We need a wealth tax. We need an estate tax.
We have an estate tax.
We need a bigger estate tax, because it clearly doesn't work when you can hide money in corporations.
We need to get rid of a lot of loopholes. Tax. We need to the rich need to pay more of their fair share. I absolutely agree. That has no bearing on whether money is more or less accountable to the public.
We need to make Lambos cost $1 million a year just to own one.
I don't care about that. If you want to own a Lambo, that's fine by me. But I do think there's a lot of special tax loopholes that the ultra rich get away with that need to be closed. And there's definitely a problem with that. But if more people took a more active role in their political responsibility to elect people that don't just pay lip service to saying they're going to be fiscally conservative, but actually have a track record of really doing that, things would change. We have a lot of people that call themselves fiscally conservative, and then they vote for people that absolutely don't do that. So if we make the monetary system more directly democratic, it's not going to fix anything if the public is still putting boneheads into power, right?
Well, I don't even know what that's just fiscally conservative is just a buzzword that's used now. I'm not even sure that it actually means anything. I mean, really what you want is not being fiscally conservative or being fiscally liberal. It's you want the most amount of return for your investment. So building that bridge or building those roads leads to a lot of economic benefit. That's
Right.
what you want.
I'd rather put money into infrastructure than into defense. We put too much money into the defense. We should put more money into building and maintaining our infrastructure. 100% agree. That is an actionable solution to the wealth disparity problem. You put money into the infrastructure, it trickles down to the middle and lower class in the form of jobs and more opportunities and better communities. If you give the money to the Defense Department, it goes over to Israel, it gets kicked back to Raytheon and McDonnell Douglas, and ultimately finds its way into CPAC, and that's not good. That's not trickling down. But I don't.
Well, I would question the entire notion of trickle down. But let's watch the rest of this video.
Right, and I shouldn't even use that term because it's just been abused so much.
Yeah,
but
I understand what you're saying, though.
Okay, yes. Let's see what else is left here.
Without a doubt, it is an attempt. I mean, let's be honest. This is an attempt to get around taxes.
Yep,
It's an
money
attempt
laundering.
to get around money laundering laws. I mean, the idea that somehow this electronic currency is going to have more value in a, like, to do what? Half the eastern seaboard is gone when this, or like, what is going to precipitate?
Now this is what motivated me to make my statement about whether or not these crypto bros that legitimately think that in the post-apocalyptic world where the economy collapses, that Bitcoin is still going to work. That level of cognitive dissonance to me is so profound. I would put it on par with, somebody, I don't know, schizophrenia.
Or I think maybe narcissism disorder or
some kind of pathological, some kind of clinical thing where you refuse to recognize the obvious reality that if the whole economy collapsed, your internet and your phone and your Bitcoin and all that shit,
Well, I would just say let's
Excuse me.
It can be more simple than that. It's just stupidity. You're an idiot. If you think that there's a doomsday scenario where Bitcoin is going to be an effective payment solution, you are an idiot.
Yeah, but I'd love to talk with the psychologist if there's a word for this kind of just, I guess Dunning-Kruger is obviously
Part of it, yeah.
part of it. This belief that your ideas are so superior when
The
they're
better question is who would we name the syndrome after?
Crypto Kruger.
Sailor syndrome.
I think Sailor fully knows it's all a scam and just it's just all about money making. And I think a lot of these people do. Even that caller. Oh, sure, it would be nice to see a return on things. Yeah, that's why you're here. You're not here thinking it's going to, help you in the zombie apocalypse.
Well, the thing is, humans are really good at rationalizing things. And so, absolutely, they are invested in crypto because they're self-interested and they want to make money off of it. But then they're going to rationalize 101 different reasons why they're invested in crypto that doesn't make them look like a selfish asshole.
Yeah, it just seems to me that if you really, it's hard for me not to look at this as just a bunch of liars and lies. Because if you're really trying to promote this to somebody else and you really claim that you want to know the truth and you want things, you want an actual solution, you have to be open to critiques of that solution, right? If I tell you that I picked up this car and I'm about to drive it 2,000 miles into the wilderness where there's very few places, if anything goes wrong with it, where I'll be able to fix it. So it has to be super reliable. And you say, I'm familiar with that car. Let me tell you where its problems are. And you say, no, you don't understand. This car, I'm convinced it's reliable. I don't need to hear your FUD. I'm going to hop on it and we're going to go drive in 2,000 miles. It seems to me that is like some kind of mental deficiency, some kind of clinical thing where you're absolutely saying, no, I don't want to know. Don't tell me
I just think it's called being human.
I think I give humans, at least a properly functioning humans, a little more respect.
That's fair.
You know,
I clearly don't.
seaboard is gone when this, or like what is going to precipitate for the US currency to collapse? The breadth of what has to collapse around it. Like we can have a banking crisis without a doubt. And you may not be able to go in and get your food, your money, and then go buy food. Like that's like a scenario that we have come, certainly close to. I mean, like in the Great Depression, it was certainly, and but if that goes on for any considerable period of time, your access to computing, your access to electricity, is going to be also pretty suspect. And then then you also have to say, like, who are you going to trade with? Because if you don't have access to your money, we're all going to trade with Bitcoin, and it's never going to get converted back into any type of thing that like the government would take for taxes.
And I'm sure the governing body of Bitcoin is just going to be like, yeah, we're in this position now where everything we wanted, like the currency crashed. Let's just be egalitarian about this.
Right. Oh, and incidentally, guess what? Despite the fact that our fundamental values are libertarian in the sense that like we don't believe in stake and we believe in the free market and this and that, we're against price gouging at a time where like we would never ever do that.
You know what is also like fundamentally libertarian about Bitcoin is the fact that, and I keep returning to, is that it's finite. Like it's like a gold standard argument for currency. And that's what makes it ridiculous in the modern era.
The Satoshi document original mentions that.
The reason that we did away with the gold standard was because we needed the ability to print more money.
Which is an interesting thing, because I really want to engage a crypto bro and try to have a debate with them. We just can't seem to get anybody. I thought I had somebody lined up and they pussed out when I gave them a list of the 14 talking points that we would probably prefer he avoid. He just ghosted me after that.
Yeah.
But so deflationary currency is the future, and that's really good. And so I would ask anybody who is into that, I would say, do you own a car? Do you own a house? Did you pay cash with that? Do you have a credit card? Have you ever bought something that you couldn't immediately afford and gotten credit? Because that is, in effect, working with fractional reserves. That allows you, I would never be a homeowner if I didn't have the ability to tap into a system where extra money could be made available to me temporarily.
Hold on, but the gold standard and fractional reserve banking are two different.
Well, the concept behind fractional reserve is the ability to produce additional capital to stimulate the economy. Whether that, presumably it could come from a finite deflationary reserve, or it could come from a fractional reserve quantitative easing system. But it's much more likely, though, that if it was a deflationary reserve that you were getting those loans from, the cost of those loans would be so prohibitively expensive that it just wouldn't be worth it for the average person that really needs the money.
Well, like the ultimate issue with deflationary currency is that why spend it today when it's going to be worth more tomorrow? So you have a problem of economic productivity and
it contradicts its own purpose.
Everybody stops spending money, then your economy grinds to a halt. So, which is not what you want to do. You want the velocity of money to be high in an economy.
And you need to be able to pull out extra money sometimes when you don't have it. There needs to be a way for you to make a deal so that you can get extra money that isn't there. Sometimes that can help you get through things like pandemics and stuff like that. Now, the idea is you pay it back down during the good times and it all evens out. Now, if it doesn't get paid down, that's a problem. But that's not a problem with the monetary system. That's a problem with people being irresponsible and not paying down their debt.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the idea of fractional reserve banking, of having private institutions that loan money, and thereby one of the effects is that it expands the money supply, is not the only way to do this. there could be other systems. It's just that we use this particular system.
And it's much more complicated than they make it out to be. As I said, it's not just the quantitative easing, it's the irresponsibility of paying down debt that is the real problem. We wouldn't have, and of course, the causes of inflation there's so many more other than just how much money is available in the supply. So, yeah. And of course, what they're talking about here of what makes you think the internet and Bitcoin is going to be valuable in when the economy crashes?
Yeah. Well, I think that's entirely applicable. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of funny because Bitcoin, the only time that it could possibly be useful is in a society that is highly connected, that the internet is ubiquitous. Then maybe Bitcoin can work. I mean, it doesn't based on its design, but if there's any scenario in which Bitcoin is actually useful, which it isn't, but if there's any scenario in which it's useful, it's not a doomsday scenario. A doomsday scenario is the worst possible situation to use Bitcoin. So the fact that people trot that out to say, this is why Bitcoin, it's just completely, they will grasp onto anything to try to get people to invest their money into Bitcoin because their wealth is dependent on greater fools buying into the scheme.
Yeah, and then don't believe us. Just look at the price of Bitcoin and watch how it follows NASDAQ and the Dow and everything else. During economic crises, Bitcoin is absolutely not a hedge. People want to pull their Bitcoin because they need actual real money.
But if you look at the price of Bitcoin and you start asking yourself, well, how is this price determined? You realize very quickly that there's nothing that guarantees that the price is reported accurately. The price is whatever the exchanges and the insiders want it to be.
Right. That's another problem.
That's how the price is set. So, the price is it's meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. All it determines is, if you are a greater fool, how much do you have to spend to buy in? Yeah. That's the only thing that it determines.
Yeah, there's obviously all kinds of problems and issues there, no doubt.
All right, what's in the last minute of this?
Okay, let's see.
That's just what society needs. And so there's no 0% chance that crypto is viable for that very fundamental reason.
Phineas Sherb. Sam Seder, noted leftist, the logical strategy during an apocalypse is to choose competition over cooperation. Phineas Herb is not listening to the show.
Yeah.
We just had a caller whose whole scenario was based on competition. And I'm suggesting to you that if that is your fundamental perspective on how things are going to go down, I was following their logic to conclusion. One of I'm probably more so in the past than, as we get closer to electoral politics and things change, and it's also a function of books. But a lot of what we've espoused on the show is developing ideas for in the event that there are changes in our society, whether they are catastrophic or not, that allow for a different sort of way in which we are organized. And so, but I appreciate your not sort of being able to follow the intricate thing when you're talking about someone else's worldview.
Yeah. If Antifa was using crypto to fund their activities across, if there's an that stuff would be, you'd be sure just racketeering so fast.
Right.
Yep, there we go.
All right. Well, that was an interesting look into the mind of a crypto bro.
And it's a standard trope. Bitcoin will become really, really valuable in the apocalypse. I find it's a weird circular argument that I find a lot of the new crypto projects embrace, which is once Bitcoin becomes ubiquitous, it solves all the problems. But in the meantime, demonstrating that Bitcoin has any actual utility that would want anybody to use it to get to that point remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's also no inelastic demand in the same way that we have for fiat. Fiat currency, we have to pay our taxes. There's a bunch of stuff that we require it for.
No utility.
So there will always be a demand for it because it is usable. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's nothing useful that's happening. And in fact, what's interesting is, well, there's two things that are interesting. One is that when this all started, 13 years ago, the line was that it was going to be the inevitable. It was inevitable that we were going to use it for our financial system, that everything would move over to Bitcoin. Now that obviously isn't the case, it's changing to, oh, well, once the apocalypse happens, then we're going to start using Bitcoin. It's almost religious.
There's a bunch of these arguments they keep moving in and out of view, Well,
it reminds me of, hey, when the apocalypse happens, it's the Christians are going to be saved. It's our souls that are going to heaven because, we're Christians and, well, we're the Bitcoiners. When the apocalypse happens, we'll be okay.
So I don't know if you saw, but there was a crypto guy who tried to do an AMA following mine on Reddit, where he was promoting some esoteric blockchain project. And he kept talking about, once we gain market penetration, this and this and this are going to happen. And I said, this reminds me of like an elementary school student's business plan. I got this podcast that's going to be all about Nickelback. And once everybody recognizes the genius of Nickelback and my contribution to that, this thing is going to be incredibly successful. Let me tell you all of the wonderful things we're going to be able to do. Just presupposing that all he needs is to get a huge market share. And then if it's, it's like I've got a lemonade stand. And once my lemonade stand becomes the number one lemonade in the region, we're going to be wildly successful. That's a business model. Not why your lemonade stand is better. Here's what makes it better.
Reasoning.
Not how you're going to get market share. Just throw a bunch of buzzwords out and expect people to be so impressed by those buzzwords that that's going to magically draw everybody to this thing that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the only penetration that's going to happen is when you buy into those projects and they fuck you and you lose all your money.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of pivoting, we're going to pivot to the end of this, and hopefully we'll be pivoting into less crypto subjects because it really does seem like we're just beating dead horses.
Well, we should also do something about the Federal Reserve. I think that would be interesting. We should have a deep dive on the Fed.
I think the Fed is just a big scapegoat. The bigger
maybe
problem,
it is, and then we should say so.
I mean, I don't have a problem with my money. My money works fine. If things cost more, I'm not blaming it on the Federal Reserve. I'm blaming it on Exxon and Mobil and BP. They're the ones that are raising gas prices, which affect everything.
But hold on. But the Fed is they're the ones that make decisions about interest rates that can throw millions of people out of work. And we should ask the question of
is that happening though? Are there millions of people out of work because of the interest rates? I don't.
Well,
see
that's what they were planning to do with raising interest rates to quote unquote tame inflation, except that inflation wasn't being caused by a wage price spiral.
I think they were just trying to control and keep inflation from getting out of control.
As the ECB and the IMF have pointed out, a large part of the inflation that occurred was because of price gouging.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So,
but right now, unemployment is at a super duper low. Unemployment rate right now is looking really, really, really good. I don't know what the exact thing is, but I remember seeing recently that it's significantly better than it was during Trump's term. And so I don't know how the Fed, obviously raising and lowering interest rates definitely does affect some stuff. But this is all the more reason to just not have a lot of debt. It's generally always a good idea to where don't carry debt that is subject to variable interest rates like credit cards or variable interest rate mortgages. You should never have that.
But we're talking about losing your job because.
And I'm saying I don't know anybody that
finance.
I don't know anybody that's that's happening to.
Oh, that is okay. We'll talk about this another day.
Yeah, bone up on it and we can tackle it. I just dislike blame the Fed. Our money needs to be more democratic. Well, how? Keep saying these abstractions, but
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the question is that there are legitimate criticisms. What are those criticisms?
But I see it's the same thing about
what do you do to resolve them?
Crypto, bro. Like Bitcoin will fix this. How? Well,
Bitcoin is a rejection of even the idea of having a Federal Reserve.
Well,
And
we
so
need the
if-
monetary system to be decentralized. Well, explain to me a scenario in which that makes things better.
Yeah.
The Fed needs to be more accountable. Again, explain to me a situation where that makes things better. Don't just spew out these buzzwords, because I think part of the reason we're in this mess is that people are not asking specifically how. They're just like, well, hey, this guy over here says he can fix stuff, and I like the tone of his voice. So
No,
why
I
not
think the
give it a
problem.
try?
I think the problem is that there are legitimate economic criticisms. There are legitimate problems, and those problems, people see that those problems aren't being addressed, or they're getting worse, and then someone comes to them and lies to them and says, "Hey, Bitcoin solves this," and they latch onto it as a solution and as an ideology. The fact that the problems aren't being addressed, aren't being identified, and aren't improving is the reason why crypto has a toehold in the first place. If everyone had a good quality of life, if everyone had a good job, if nobody had to worry about starving to death, we wouldn't be having this conversation about crypto. The reason that it's taken root is because of economic disenfranchisement. There's no question.
I think
No question.
in the case of crypto, a lot of that economic disenfranchisement is fabricated. It's mythological. You know, you've got these people that live in suburban Florida or fucking the Bay Area pretending to be worried about the unbanked in Africa. I don't buy that shit. I don't think their solutions are going to fix those
I mean
people.
the Walmart worker. I mean the guy that works 60 hours a week at
Yeah,
Walmart.
they're not
and
dabbling
can't-
with
and can't-
crypto either.
Absolutely, they're dabbling in crypto. They're DCAing. And if you look at the statistics about where this money is coming from,
I don't
it's
believe
not
that.
affluent. It's not all affluent suburbanites. It's
Well,
the
I'll tell you what,
poor
bring
that
that-
are getting fleeced. by
Bring
the
that
rich.
data next time, because I don't
All
believe
right.
it.
All right, we'll talk about it next time.
All right. Okay, well, I guess we'll wrap this up. Maybe we could have the second episode in the can here, too. And until next time, everybody, thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yes, listening to.